I am thinking which way we'll go this time. Kind of don't want to go the same route as yesterday. Still don't want to go into the forest. Yeah. I guess we're gonna go that way. Just around the forest and down there where the poppy seed field is, and we'll see. God damn, it's warm. It's like the sun is like scorching hot, and it's like not even 8 a.m. and it feels like high noon. I mean, God. Oh man. Yeah, this is the part of the year in the summer that, like, hey, it's great that it's warm and it's like not freezing and all that, but yeah, I'm not particularly fond of. Oh wow, look at this. I'm gonna finish that, don't worry. I'm gonna come back to it. As usual, I digress, but it's so hard to keep, as I said. Actually, I said it around this part here, in this particular part of the meadow. I said it's so hard to keep the script, quote unquote, straight, because there are so many things happening, you know. Well, and I found a feather. Hold on, let me correct the angle here a little bit, like this. So I found a feather, and that feather is of a buzzard. And like I was saying yesterday, if I look at it from up close, it's glossy, it shines. You cannot see it, unfortunately. That would have to be a different angle here. That's a feather drake. So it's shiny, it's glossy, so you know that is not an owl feather. And if you look very, very closely, there is a little bit of a furry texture I was talking about yesterday. But it's just different, you know. It's oh yeah, there is a little bit of it. When you look really closely to the edges, there is a bit of it, but the feather feels different, you know. Like, there are some parts that do have the fuzzy texture, but the owl feather has the entirety of the feather is furry and and sort of fuzzy, you know. This one, when you run your hand across it, you know, especially towards the top and close to the central part, it's very smooth and sort of like glossy and, you know, swooshy. I don't know how to put it, but it's just different. And same thing from the other side. So that's, you know, how you're gonna know, okay, this is, I think you would probably guess that this is a bird of a prey feather, or like a predator's feather. But that's how you're gonna distinguish, okay, that's not an owl feather, because it's glossy and shiny and sort of smooth, instead of very velvety, soft and fuzzy and furry like the owl feather. And this one, this part, you can know from the shape of it, this little thing here, how it's like sort of cut off on this side here. It's got a very specific shape. It's as if the upper part, the outer edge of the feather, this particular part towards the tip, as if it was cut by sharp scissors, so like laser, you know. It's very precisely cut, and it's very thin here, and it does this very specific shape. And that's how you're gonna know that this part is from a wing, and it's from hold on, thank you. Thank you. I just did, you know what I did? There's this video of a guy who sneezes, and he says excuse me, thank you. He says both excuse me and thank you at the same time to himself, and I kind of did that now. So yeah, I get the guy now. I didn't say excuse me, but I wanted to say something like that, and I said thank you. So yeah, here we go. But that's how you're gonna know that the feather is from the wing. and it's from one of the primaries. These feathers are called the primaries, and the primaries are at the very outer part of the wing, on its tip. You know, so when you see flying bird of prey flying, the sort of fingers that it has on like quote unquote fingers on the end parts of its wings, they usually like spread out and make this, you know, specific wing shape. That's one of those feathers, one of the primaries that spread out during the flight, and you can see them. So yeah, that's a primary of common buzzard, buteo buteo. Yeah, nice. Anyway, yeah, it was a nice find. And yeah, it definitely molted it. You know, this is one of the examples when the feather is not lost through a fight or unnaturally. It's lost through a molting process, where essentially the old feather is pushed out by a new growing feather that grows underneath it, and it's pushed out and it just falls off. Or sometimes the bird plucks it out, you know, because it feels like, okay, my new feather is pushing out, so I'm just gonna, you know, sort of help it a little bit, and it just pushes it out, or like plucks it out itself. But mostly it's hold on, Drake just pooped here, so I don't want to step into it. Wasn't particular convenient spot, Drake, but I don't know where is it, but hopefully, yeah, I'm not stepping into it. Maybe he wasn't pooping, he was peeing, but I'm not sure. Anyway, yeah. Sometimes he does it. He like, sometimes, most of the time he poops in a very convenient spot, and sometimes he just does it somewhere very inconveniently, but it's very rare, really. So yeah, so the molting process is that the old feather is swapped for a new one, and it's pushing underneath it, just like teeth when just like kids, you know, like the baby teeth, like they're pushed out by the adult teeth. Is it milk teeth? I'm not sure what's the correct term in English, but you know, yeah, your baby teeth are essentially, they don't have this deep root as the adult ones, and then they're pushed out by the adult ones that grow underneath it. Same thing is true for feathers. And birds of prey have a very specific molting pattern. Oh, look at that, there's a deer. Oh shit, I hope. Hold on. Should probably. Reiku, tady jdeme. Tady jdeme. Tady jdeme. Searching for something. He was searching here for a couple times, you know. I kind of have a hunch now that I see that roe deer there might be a fawn hidden in this. Hopefully not. Maybe it's just a scent that the roe deer's left behind, but he was searching there for a couple times before, so yeah. Oh, what was I saying? Oh yeah, the birds of prey have a very specific molding pattern. So specific, in fact, and so like precise and systematic that you can actually tell their age by the way their feathers are molting. I mean, that's something you can tell in a lot of birds, actually. But for birds of prey, you can actually also tell from a distance. You don't have to see it from up close. So when it's flying, you can kind of, I mean, you would have to see really well, but probably if you would take a photograph, you could actually tell from the way its feathers are molted, like, what age is it, you know? And I think something similar you can tell from gulls, because they have, oh, you hear that? It's very close. It's here. It's probably a different bird. It's much further away from the field over there, so might be another territory. So that was a quail, common quail, Coturnix. Very nicely calling. All right, we're gonna go around here. Let's just listen for the quail. was very close. Huh? Wow, cool. So somewhere over there. Nice. So yeah, they have a very specific molding pattern from which you can actually tell their age. Very cool. Yeah, and they molt specifically, you know, they first mold. I don't recall what was exactly the pattern, but let's say, you know, just don't take me word for word. I'm just like giving an example. Like they first mold the primaries from the outside towards the inside, and they go to secondaries, and you know, they lose feather by feather. It's not like they lose everything at once, because they would lost the ability to fly, which would be kind of bad for them, right? I mean, they would be cooked. I mean, they couldn't hunt or anything, so they have to be smart about it. And I mean, I don't think they're thinking about the molting. I guess it's just a sort of a programmed thing. I think they can, I don't know, can they stop the molding, I'm thinking? But you know, it's just a sort of a hold on. Got a call Trey because he ran towards there. Yeah, cool. Yeah, see, that's the things before I didn't used to mind that much, you know, like when he was somewhere, I was like, good boy, talking and focusing on something else. And now I'm like really mindful. When he goes somewhere, I call him back, because, oh no, not there again, Drake, god damn it. I don't feel good him searching there, man. Drejku, pojď, tady jdeme. Pojď, tady jdeme. Tam ne, Drejku, tam ne. Tak, good boy. Yeah, I mean, doesn't feel great good boy, to boss him around like this, but I mean, what can you do, you know? I mean, I don't want him to hurt another fawn or rabbit or anything, so yeah. Yeah, so you know, I don't think it's like a thing, like a conscious thing that they say like, oh, I'm gonna drop a primary now, and oh, I'm gonna drop a secondary now. It just happens, you know, for them. They could probably, I don't know though, but they could probably sort of stop the molting process in some cases, I assume. But also that might be, you know, it might not be 100% conscious. Maybe it's like when they have scarcity of food, or there is something, maybe an injury or something, that they might stop the molting process to save energy. But I don't think that's like a conscious thing. So anyway, they're molding those feathers in a very specific pattern and way, because they have to save their ability to fly. And thanks to that, you can not only tell which, well, I mean, that you can tell from the shape of the feather, you know, where the feather comes from in the wing, but you can tell their age. And that's all I wanted to say. So, what was I saying? I was saying something about the heat, right, before. Yeah, it's not my favorite part. Yeah, it's like, now it's nice in the shade here with a little bit of a wind. It's very pleasant, but on the sun, it's like this scorching heat that, like, you feel like you can't escape from, you know, when you're out on the sun. It's like just too much, you know. So yeah, it's like that, and it's gonna be like that for the rest of the week, but then it's gonna cool down again. And I mean, it's great if you have a shade, or if you can swim somewhere, it's very nice. But otherwise, it's like, whew, like you want to hide, you know. Like at least me, if I'm like there on the sun like this, if I'm in the sun that is this strong and this intense, I always feel like I need to hide somewhere, you know, as soon as possible. It just repels me, you know. And I love sun, but not heat, you know. That's two different things for me. Sun is awesome, but the heat, like too intense heat, no, that's not for me. But but this is pleasant. There's a wind, there's a draft coming, and there's you know, a sort of a coolness and sort of humidity and colder air coming from the forest, and that's very, very pleasant. But up on there on the meadow, oh my god, it's like you're on a baking sheet, you know. It's like ready to be cooked. Yeah, it's crazy how warm it got. Anyways, the molting is a very interesting thing, and it's a whole science around it, you know. Like, I mean, it's really sort of a unique process that all birds go through, and it really has a very specific system for each different species, and you know, people that research birds, and they ring them and see them up close. They are using it as a guide to determine the age, to determine the age. Sorry, did I say age? Yeah, to determine the age. To determine from the plumage from very specific little details, sometimes to determine you know, the gender, which is not easily identifiable from a distance. But there are very specific ways to determine the age from the molting pattern, and from how many old feathers are left on the bird, how many new feathers are there, and so on and so forth, how fresh they are, in which part of the year. And it's like, it's a whole thing, you know. Oh, there's another feather here. And that is also a buzzard. Yeah, it's probably might be from the same bird, actually, because it's not far from the other one. And this one is probably from the inside edge of a wing somewhere. Maybe might be some of the secondaries, probably, or tertiaries, you know. Yeah, but definitely towards the inner part of the wings. Definitely not the outer one, because it's small. But also, yeah, that is also a buzzard. Buto. Where's Drake again? So yeah, so it's a very interesting thing, the molting, and it's very unique for the birds of prey, because unlike for instance songbirds, it takes a really long time for birds of prey. It's a long process, probably because they're so, like, how to put it, they're so dependent on their ability to fly, and they're so dependent on their wings that they cannot afford to lose too much. So they really have to, and the feathers are large too, you know, for like buzzard or eagle. So it takes a long time, and they really go one by one. For songbirds, it's a quite fast process, you know. You would be surprised how quickly a bird can change its quote-unquote coat, how they can change the entire plumage in really sometimes in a matter of weeks. When you have an old sort of shabby looking bird, and in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you get a beautiful, you know, like fresh from the conveyor belt, like fresh from the factory, you know, like a completely new bird, with absolutely beautiful, you know, plumpy plumage and perfect feathers and all that. Yeah, so it takes can be quite a quick process for some songbirds, for some smaller birds. But they also have, you know, specific molding patterns. Say for some birds, like for instance, from what I've heard, the nightingales, they actually lose most of their feathers all at once. So what happens is that they, at certain point in the year, probably towards the end of the summer, you know, after they nest and they have the chicks and, you know, and all that, and just before the migration they want to have new feathers, right? So that they have, you know, they have the best possible tools for their migration journey. So they actually lose most of the feathers, and they're really like completely, like as if you would pluck a chicken, you know. They're like completely, not entirely featherless, but they lose really most of the feathers, and they're hidden somewhere in the shrubs, in like the undergrowth, until they can regrow those feathers. And then once they do, then they took off and they fly to their wintering grounds. And they're very, of course, very vulnerable in that particular period. So they're hiding in the undergrowth, and then they regrow those feathers. I don't know how long it takes, but my guess would be probably 2-3 weeks max. And then they just take off to the wintering grounds. See, birds of prey cannot afford that. I mean, it couldn't afford to be featherless for 3 weeks because it would starve. But for instance, a bird like nightingale, it can still hunt. It can still go around the floor, you know, the ground, and find some grubs, find some something to eat. It doesn't need to fly. It just needs to evade predators and stay hidden in out of sight, you know, which it can achieve because it's not a large bird, right? So yeah, that's just an interesting thing about molting, and that will be all for today. So I'm signing off. See you tomorrow. Okay, there's a little bit of a bonus ending. Look what I got. It's a, oh, it just closed its wings. It just closed its wings. Hold on, let me put him on a lavender flower here. There you go, buddy. Oh yeah. Oh my, it's flying away now. Cool. Yeah, it was swallowtail that we had in form of a pupae, that's the correct pronunciation, and we had it in a glass in a glass jar. We received it from our neighbors because they had caterpillars on their raised beds. You know, they had their caterpillars on their dill, and so they took some of the caterpillars and they raised them, and then they give us one of the pupae, and it just hatched this morning. So that was the swallowtail, and it just flew away. She's beautiful. And I just came this after the walk, and my girlfriend just showed it to me that she let it out of the jar because it just freshly hatched. And it's funny because I was just checking it out yesterday, the pupae, and it was like dark and kind of darkish, and I was like, it's gonna hatch soon, and it just hatched this morning, which is cool. And by the way, this is my wildlife pond, or this is our wildlife pond. And yeah, and you can see some of the water lilies there. There are actually 2 flowers that are about to open, but they closed. One of them was open towards the evening, and it just closed again, which is interesting. But yeah, recently there was a water vole that moved in and dug some burrows by the bank of the pond, and it actually ate some of the flowers over there. So after reading a little bit about it, I discovered that it could actually do quite a lot of damage, especially in such a micro environment. And as much as I would love to keep it in, because I love all the species, you know, I love all the different sort of diversity in our garden, I decided to acquire this jammer, or like, it's not a jammer, it's like a electronic repellent that is solar powered, and it's repelling them away, because they would most likely, you know, kind of really do a lot of damage in the pond. So it was just a bit of a bonus ending to the to the video, and I'm gonna sign off now again twice. And those are the chickens. I haven't showed you the chickens. Check that out. Check the girls out. I'm just gonna let them out now. Hold on. Da, 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 da.